Okay, good morning. Thanks so much. Val, please have a seat. Thank you. We are so excited to be back in Polk County. I want to thank Grady Judd, the sheriff here, for hosting us. We're also joined by Sheriff Wayne Ivey from Brevard County. What I've learned around, having traveled the state and even been in other states, is when people talk about who America's sheriff is, it's usually a conversation about one of Florida's sheriffs. And so in Polk County, they say Grady is, but when you go over to Brevard, a lot of them say Wayne is. And so we like the healthy competition. They're both doing a great job. We also have our Attorney General, Ashley Moody, with us today. We have two Florida senators, Blaise Ingoglia and Jay Collins, who are both doing a really great job in the Florida Senate. And we have Mrs. Shubin, who's a restaurant owner in Lakeland, is going to talk about actually being a victim of some of the crime that we see going on with some of the people that have come across the border. We also have David Kerner, who's the head of Florida Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles, with us here today. So I want to thank everybody for being here. We have talked for 4 years, and I've had Grady and Wayne at events about the problem of having an open border and having illegal immigration run amok. We sent people at the request of Texas to go to the southern border all the way back in 2021 to help with that mission to stem what the Biden administration was allowing to have happen. We did major reforms in the state of Florida since I've been governor, including banning sanctuary cities. Remember what those are? You're going to find out on January 20th, because some of these left-wing cities are probably going to try to be sanctuary. Obviously, we hope the federal government and Congress will combat that. So we banned sanctuary cities. We also enacted sweeping policies to protect Floridians against illegal immigration, including things like employment verification, including things like saying no photo ID for people in the country illegally, not just driver's license, but any photo ID, having strong policies to prosecute people who vote illegally if they're not U.S. citizens and properly registered to vote, and so on. And we even created a program to transport illegals out of the state of Florida, including to beautiful Martha's Vineyard. So we have done a lot over these last 4 years. And we've led the way on so many things. And the results, when we did the bill in 23, they said, oh, Florida, the economy is going to tank because you're cracking down on illegal immigration. First of all, that's offensive to say that Florida is just based on illegal immigration. And people will say, like, there'll be these farm workers and they'll say, see, and then you go and these people have farm visas to work here. So, but there was a lot of people saying that this was going to be like the worst thing ever. And then what's happened is Florida's economy has continued to grow. We've seen a huge reduction in taxpayer expenses at things like our emergency rooms, because you have far fewer illegals that are going in to get free medical care. You've also seen illegals leave the state of Florida, not in sufficient numbers because the feds have worked opposite us, but you have seen that. So everyone's saying that you somehow couldn't do this, what was not accurate. We continue to thrive in the state of Florida, and we will going forward. But we've had a lot of complaints. People have been railing against the Biden administration's policies. I don't think there's a single Republican elected official in the state of Florida, or heck, in the country, who hasn't come out and said how bad these policies are and complained about them. Well, guess what? On Monday, we have an opportunity to do something about it with the inauguration of Donald Trump as the 47th president. We are not approaching the new administration in a lackadaisical fashion. We in Florida have a sense of urgency to accomplish this mission. And the mission is very simple. We need to end the illegal immigration crisis once and for all in these United States of America. Now, in order to do that, even though it's the federal government's primary responsibility, to enforce our borders and enforce our immigration laws. Practically speaking, given how many people came in under Biden, if the president in the Trump administration does not have support from state and local governments across the country, the policy is not going to be optimally effective. It's just the reality. And so we in Florida have an opportunity yet again to lead and to say we are going to be there every step of the way as the new president works to end this crisis once and for all. Our state officials will work with the federal government to combat illegal immigration. Our local officials. Now, look, someone like Grady and Wayne, they want to help because they understand the effects of illegal immigration. But not everyone necessarily wants to do that in every city in Florida. But we're going to say, yeah, not only can you not be a sanctuary city, you have an affirmative obligation to step up and help. And here's the thing. You can't just say, like, if someone's here illegally, wait till they commit like a serious felony before you deport them. If you have gangs like the Venezuelan gangs are running roughshod around the country, we have some in Florida too, you should just be able to identify them. They're here illegally. Get them, turn them over to ICE, and send them back to their home country where they belong. And we need to do this swiftly, and we need to do this overwhelmingly. Now, some people say, well, you know, you could just kind of wait and we'll get around to it. And maybe we'll say, no, we have a sense of urgency in the state of Florida. We have to come in right on the heels of the new president getting sworn into office, and we need to enact strong policies that are going to help this administration accomplish the mission that the American people spoke loudly and clearly about in November. And I've talked with the president about these issues at length. We've been working with people on his team because they're going to be very bold. But the president himself told me, he said, you know, inflation was an issue. He's like, but I got elected because of the immigration issue and the border, and I'm going to solve it. And he is very, very intent on getting the job done for the American people. So we got to be ready, willing and able to assist. We've convened a special session of the Florida legislature on January 27th. President-elect has urged other governors around the country to do the same thing because working together, we can accomplish the mission. If we're going to drag our feet in the state of Florida, then that means that elected officials are not doing what the voters sent them into office to do. And I think this is very... I think this is very straightforward. There's been no issue that's been higher on the radar consistently over these last 4 years than the immigration issue. People that have run for office in Florida have run on it. They've run against Biden's policies. They said they can do something about it. Well, now's your chance. Don't say you'll get around to it in a few months. No, we need action, and we need action now. And I know Florida voters will expect nothing less than our full effort and full commitment to rapidly answer the call so that we can get this job done. So I want to thank everybody who has been strong on this issue for many years. Now is the time. This is a once in a decade opportunity, maybe once in 25-year opportunity to finally solve something that has been an issue in this country for decades. And so we need all hands on deck. We need to lead. Don't be passive. Be bold. Be strong. Make sure that you're out there doing. We got to go above and beyond the call of duty, not just act like this is any other time where we can just kick up our feet and kind of wait for things to happen. So in this legislative session, and we know what's coming down the pike on January 20th. We've been in discussions with policy people for the Trump transition. You're going to see some major changes in the federal government's posture with respect to the border and immigration. And these are things we've been asking for 4 years, but it gives us an opportunity to complement those efforts to really be a force multiplier and maximize the effectiveness of those policies. So we are going to be proposing, and I know we've got some members of the legislature here who are endorsing these changes. We are going to require that law enforcement at both the municipal, county, and state level, that they have maximum participation in any programs to assist the federal government with the enforcement of federal immigration laws. Trust me, President does not want this to get bogged down in red tape. He understands. He wants to see the support. Second, we need to enact criminal penalties for illegal entry under state law. Federal government says, but what about the state? We should do this so that we have an ability to hold them accountable in ways. And my thing on this, people say, oh, well, deport the criminals. The problem with that is if somebody is here and they're in a gang and they haven't committed a crime yet, are you just supposed to sit there and wait till somebody's victimized? No, your illegal entry into our state was a crime. We get that on the books, and then we send you back home where you belong. So we need to do that. We are going to appoint a state immigration enforcement officer that will be dedicated to overseeing the coordination with federal authorities and Florida's existing program. For example, we do have the transport program that we have utilized. And that was something when we did that was over 2 years ago. I think it was September of 2022. A lot of people were not talking about the border. Once they showed up in Martha's Vineyard, then all of a sudden people were, because they didn't think it would apply to them. They didn't care what was happening to border communities in Texas or how people came across the rest of the country and imposed burdens on communities. They didn't care about that. But once they had to deal with just 50, then all hell broke loose. And so we have that, but we want to be able to work with the federal government. This will be obviously different than Biden, because Biden would fly them in the middle of the night, not tell us about it. And then all of a sudden you'd have people, the feds would bust them all over God's creation. That's not going to happen this time with the Trump administration. We'll be able to work constructively together. We also want to make sure that we are expanding our existing authorities so that local and state officials are empowered, and the federal government would have to bless this, and I think they will. They should be empowered to detain and deport people who are here illegally. It should not be, well, we ran out of ICE beds, therefore you got to release somebody on the street and then they go out and create problems for our communities. That's not the way it works. So that is going to be really, really significant. We also need better gang enforcement. We've got to broaden the legal definition of gang-related activities so that it includes these groups of very dangerous illegal aliens, these Venezuelans. It's really, really bad. And think about it. When we had Hurricane, I think it was Helene. Yeah, Helene. Maybe it was Milton. No, Helene. We had Helene. It did a lot of damage to the west coast of Florida with the storm surge. You had people arrested in the Pinellas County beaches for looting. There were 45 arrests in one tranche, and 41 were illegals. And it's like, why do we let this happen? Well, obviously, Biden wanted to let it happen. That's going to change, but we need to be there. If that happens, you work with the feds and you make it, you get it gone. But these are criminal rings of people that are basically leveraging and taking advantage of very weak Biden administration policy. And those days will come to an end. We also have to have reforms to education and voting rules to ensure we are maximally discouraging illegal immigration to come to the state of Florida in the first place. And we've done a lot of great stuff with that regard since I've been governor, whether it's no IDs, whether it's all these other things. But the one thing that's kind of still been out there, and this was enacted back in 2014, so it wasn't anything that I was involved with, but Florida gives in-state tuition for children of illegal immigrants. I'm thinking to myself, why would we give that tuition discount to people that are not even in the state legally? So we need to repeal that. We have to put Floridians first. And if you're going to do a discount on that, apply it to more bright futures for Floridians, for Pete's sake. Don't give it to illegals. We also need to require voter registration affirmation of U.S. citizenship and Florida residency. Now, when you do, so our Constitution, we did a ballot thing a few years back. You have to be a U.S. citizen to vote in Florida. So if you vote, you're not a citizen, we now have an election crimes unit in state government that goes after, and we've prosecuted people, and you should be prosecuted. Problem is, it shouldn't even come to that, right? So but when you sign up, you don't necessarily have to say, when you check that box that you're a U.S. citizen. So if we change that, then anyone that checks it, if it turns out they're illegal, doesn't even matter if they vote at that point. They have committed the offense. That is going to have a huge deterrent impact. You go down to some of these areas. Like I remember one of the first people that was prosecuted who was illegal and voted. He admitted it. And he said, in Broward County, they told me I could vote, that it didn't matter. No, it matters. And so changing this will further discourage anybody who's not a Florida resident and U.S. citizen for voting. We also want to increase penalties for illegal aliens that commit voter fraud or provide false voter registration information when trying to vote. Again, if people know they're going to be held accountable, they're going to be much less likely to do it. Another way to reduce incentives. So what happens is people will come illegally because they can work more menial tasks, but make a lot more money in the US than they can in like a third world country. So they'll come, make money, and then they send money back in remittances to the host, to their family, friends, wherever, to the home country. We are going to impose ID verification for foreign remittances. So you have to show, it's like an e-verify for remittances. The money transfer company has got to run you through to make sure that you're lawfully able to be in the country and to send money outside of our country. That will be a huge deterrent for people coming to the state of Florida illegally. I think the Trump administration is going to do something on remittances, but I think they may need Congress to do some of that. And who knows whether Congress will ever do anything. So we have an opportunity to do it here in Florida, I think in a way that makes a lot of sense. And then finally, bail and flight risk presumptions. We want a rebuttable presumption that illegal aliens are in fact flight risks and to deny them bail when they are brought up on charges. So now is such a golden opportunity. And, my thing is this, like, I'm very simple on this. Like, if I tell you I'm going to do something and then I have an opportunity to do it, I do it. I'm not going to tell you I'm going to do something and then not do it. Right. That appalls me to see these guys who run for office, tell the voters what they want to hear. Then they get in. It's like they get amnesia. Oh, we campaigned on this, but we really got to do all these other things. No, this has been the central issue. This is arguably the most important issue that led to the results of the 2024 election. The failures of the Biden administration have done huge damage to the country. It's done huge damage to even our state, although we've worked hard to mitigate it. Now we have a new sheriff coming in town nationally. We have an opportunity to work at the state and local government really on day one. I mean, the inauguration is January 20th. The legislature comes in the next week. Obviously, we'll be able to process all this and be in good shape going in. And then it's off to the races, and we'll lead on this. And what'll happen is, as Florida leads, working with the feds, other states will follow suit, and we'll create a healthy competition to be able to get these things done. So I'm excited about the opportunity. We don't have time to waste. We've got to make use of every opportunity we have to make a difference for our constituents. And on this issue, I can't find a single Republican who will publicly disagree with any of the things in here. This is what they've all been saying. They say we need to solve the problem. Here's our opportunity to get it done. And I look forward to working with anyone and all who are willing to make it happen. So we're going to hear from some of our guests here today. And so we'll start with our Attorney General, Ashley Moody.
Thank you, and thank you for being here today to show support for the folks that wear a badge every day. And their jobs have been so much harder over the last 4 years. Many of you may remember when President Biden took office, within the first few months, the first case that I brought against this administration as it relates to immigration was when the administration came in and overturned tradition of Democratic and Republican administrations and said, even if you are committing very serious felonies and you are here illegally, we're not going to deport you. In fact, we're going to go a step further. We're going to start canceling the detainers that these folks put on the folks that were arrested and brought into our state facilities. We're going to cancel the detainers, and we're going to make you start releasing these people back into your communities. These people were on my horn as fast as you can imagine, saying we're releasing dangerous people into the communities that have committed crimes against our citizens, serious felonies, because the federal government, going against how we've always handled it, is now telling us to release them back into the communities. And so you better believe I sued. And I was proud to do it. A litany of cases followed as it related to immigration. And I'm proud to say, with the encouragement and leadership of this governor, we were leading on this issue, fighting on this issue in courts, winning on this issue in courts. But it was not enough to contain the actions of this president, who time after time, when we would win in court, would slightly change the policy, even changing the name of a policy, thinking that would let them get around the law to bring more and more people into the United States. They would use terms that they said were legal immigration when it was illegal. And of course, the surge and the encouraged surge into our country promoted more and more illegal immigration. And you can use whatever number you want. I've heard 11 million to 20 million over the last 4 years. Let's take the 11 million number. 11 million people pouring into our country in the last 4 years. If that was a state, that would be a larger population than 42 of our states. Think about that. Think about what that does to your laws. Think about what that does to your law enforcement that have taken an oath to protect and serve. Think about that, what does to your financial ability to sustain a state that is larger than 42 of your existing states. That's just people. The amount of fentanyl that flooded into our country killed 500,000 Americans just in the last 4 years. The number one killer of working age Americans, fighting age Americans, is fentanyl. And how do I know that this lethal substance is purposefully being pushed into our country? Because China uses it as a bargaining tactic, and this administration let them do it. We have to start running now. Right now, today, start planning, start getting ready, get these folks ready to hit the ground running, to take the baton when it comes in fast from this administration and get these folks that have been pushed into our country out. I have personally spoken with folks in the last few weeks who had their home invaded when they were home by folks with crowbars. They didn't care that they were there, here illegally. Just Saturday, someone that had crossed with no detection by law enforcement 2 years ago just raped, sexually assaulted, and kidnapped a 13-year-old girl here in Florida. These just happened in the last few weeks. I could list these on and on and on. When we tried to bring suit, we were frustrated by the courts because they said the federal government has this authority. They can do what they want. Can I tell you, as the state's top cop, I say that humbly, guys, you can't imagine how angry I was, because they say, the courts say on one hand, the federal government has all the authority, and when they drop the ball and don't do their jobs, they tie our hands from doing our jobs. And when we try to push back in court, they say we can't do that. That is incredibly dangerous. It's tying our hands and our feet and pushing us into the water. There's no chance of survival. For the sake of Floridians, for the sake of Americans, we've got to get started right now. These guys have to have the resources and the law to go out and do their jobs and start detaining legally folks that are committing crimes against our citizens and pushing them out. And they have to have the ability to do it in the state. The law gives us the ability to help the federal government in all of these matters. I can tell you on day one, there's a lot of reason a lot of Florida talent and specialists and expertise are getting sucked up into Washington, because we have been identifying the problems and solving the problems, trying to push back on what they were doing since day one. And it's not just folks going up into cabinet or into other offices, it's staff. I'm losing great people because they are experts on this issue. And I can tell you there are things that we can start doing on Inauguration Day to make this state safer. I am so proud of the leadership of this state. We have led throughout this crisis, and we will lead in fixing it. So I am so grateful, let me just say, for the leadership that acts boldly, tells you like it is when there is a problem, tells you how we're going to fix it. And most importantly, as the wife of a law enforcement officer, let these folks do the job they swore an oath to do, to keep you safe, to stand on that line between good and evil, between chaos and order. Allow them to enforce the laws that you, the people, have said want to rule in Florida. So thank you so much, Governor DeSantis, and everybody standing up behind you, which is probably the most important in this room right now. Thanks.
Ready? Wow, that's more than usual.
The governor would be disappointed.
We're in for a show today.
The governor would be disappointed if I didn't have my cards. Do you know?
Step up and hold those for you while you're doing it.
Yes. Sheriff Ivey and I put bad guys in jail. Our criminal justice system holds them accountable, and the federal government lets them into your neighborhood to rob and pillage and steal and rape and murder. Our governor is a leader. He's saying, look, the people of the state of Florida, the people of the United States of America elected Donald Trump because Donald Trump said he was going to fix this illegal immigration issue, and our top priority is the illegal immigrants in this country that are committing crime. So I want to give you just a quick snapshot of why our governor is saying Florida needs to set the example for the other states to support the president to get rid of these criminals who are victimizing our people. How about Ivey Grandos? He's not only here illegally, he killed a 21-year-old. He was leaving the scene of a crash, no driver's license, in Homeland, Florida. Think about that for a minute. We had another instance where we arrested a guy 4 times for no driver's license, and ICE never deported him. Oh, that's minor. And then he ran over someone on a scooter and killed them. Had he been deported for violating the law, that person riding the scooter would be alive and well today. And then there's Elmer Kennel. He's 24. 2 people died, and a 18-year-old high school girl will be injured with issues forever because he was here illegally from Guatemala, caused a car crash, and 2 people died. This is a snapshot. We could give you hundreds. Dorito Casto, he was deported 2 times. He came back, he had a crash on 1792, DUI manslaughter, after he was already deported 2 times. How about Ernesto Morales, who's 32? His hit and run killed a 5-year-old little girl when he ran into the rear end of her car on Highway 60. How about Arnaldo Paz, who's 39? He murdered a 74-year-old lady in Polk City. None of these people should have been here to have created these crashes and murdered these people. How about Juan Orgozo? He's 36, attempted murder. He did a home invasion and told the lady, shut up or I'll kill you. She was there. As the governor said, they didn't care that that someone was there. They wanted to go in and steal stuff. And then there's the frost-proof murder by Miguel Cazame, who's 47. Now, folks, that should shock your conscience. But how about this? We have one of our victims here today. Professional criminals out of Venezuela. They were arrested in New York, in the city, in the state, and not held accountable. They ended up here. They're very good, very experienced, very professional criminals. They would go to restaurants and they focused on our Asian residents and business people. They would photograph the restaurant inside and out. They would identify the owners. They would stalk them back and forth to their homes. And when they patterned them, then they would break into their homes and steal and steal and steal. Of the 9 cases we charged these folks with initially, 7 of them were our Asian American friends. They were here illegally. The Biden administration didn't care. We talked about that. Now we've got a governor who said, look, the people have voted and we want to get ahead. We want to set a state model. Our Senate and our House are the best in the nation, and they're led by professionals that I have the highest respect for. We have to come together and set the state model that supports the federal model so that we get the illegal criminals out of this country. Now, what's interesting about that, Governor, is the mandates for those that want to ride the fence that you actively get engaged in getting these criminals out of our community. I'll close with this. Governor, I still can't imagine why people think more of illegal aliens committing crime than they do honest, law-abiding citizens of the state of Florida and the United States of America. I don't understand that. But we've got a governor that says we're going to look out for the law-abiding citizens, for the children, for the good people of the state of Florida. We're going to set the model for the other states to follow. Our legislators who are brilliant, our leadership in the legislature is brilliant. We're going to make sure that we just don't carte blanche accept the federal positions because it's full of woke craziness. I mean, there's one provision: if you are going to house these illegal immigrants that have committed crime long-term for the federal government, you've got to ask the person, do you identify as a male or a female? And who would you like to search you on the way in the jail? And we've got to have medical check you 3 times a week. And blah, just gag me with it. That's the craziness that's written into the legislation. So listen, those of you that are writing for the Trump administration, get that crap out and let us do what we do best. The law enforcement officers of the state of Florida will do their job. Our governor is the leader. Our governor is saying, now's the time, and we're the place to set the example of how we can protect people and keep them safe in the free state of Florida. And I leave with this message: southbound and down. Do it yourself. You can self-deport and avoid a lot of prison sentence, but it's time. Southbound and down. Thank you, Governor.
Okay. All right, more visual aids than normal. So we got our money's worth this morning from Grady. Okay, Senator Ingolia.
Good morning, everyone. first, I want to thank all the law enforcement for everything you guys do, and thank you. And I think I've died and gone to political heaven. Yes, give them a big round of applause. I think I've died and gone to political heaven being on stage with Governor Ron DeSantis and these two guys. This is awesome. Please take pictures so I can post them later. So you're going to hear a bunch of passion in my voice because I get very passionate about this issue. And the passion comes from the federal government and state legislatures in the past, not this one, not doing what they were mandated to do, what the people want them to do. One of the reasons why this governor got elected is because he listens to people, he knows what the issues are, and he's not afraid, and he's being bold, and he pushes those issues. And that's one of the reasons why everyone wants to move here to the state of Florida. President Trump, same thing. There's a mandate. One of the big issues that he ran on is illegal immigration and finally fixing illegal immigration. When he was in office the first time, there was a bunch of Democrat obstructionists who were just trying to stop him every way, every issue along the way. But a funny thing happened from then until now, and that was President Biden, who basically opened up the borders, and the immigration issue became absolutely untenable for everyone, because we've seen what it's been doing in our communities and bringing fentanyl and gangs across, illegal immigrants in our communities that are being brought here by a federal government, settling in our communities and wreaking havoc, committing crimes. And I want to thank these guys for doing what they do. But here's the deal. This issue has been festering since the Ronald Reagan administration. And year after year and administration after administration, we keep on hearing the same thing, that we are going to fix it. We are finally going to fix it. We never get anything. Ronald Reagan tried a grand bargain and bargain with the Democrats to get comprehensive illegal immigration reform. He gave amnesty to some, but the reform never came. And ever since then, all we've seen is the illegal immigration population just continue to grow and grow and grow. To the point now, it's not a Republican issue, although it's probably one of our big issues. It is an American issue. It is an issue for all of Floridians, because when you look at the polling, you have a lot of Democrats, a lot of independents that are that care about this issue because they understand the consequences of not doing anything. Well, the time for not doing anything is over. That's why I love when this governor, when I work with this governor, when we passed Senate Bill 1718, which at that point and still is probably the strongest state-led illegal immigration bill that's ever passed. So much, and you guys wouldn't know this, but I was getting contacted from representatives and senators in other states asking, why did you do this? Where is the language of this? How can we copy this? Because at that point I said that, look, the federal government under the Biden administration wasn't standing up and doing anything. So the states were going to have to take upon ourselves and do it. So we passed it. Other states are trying to copy. But now we have an opportunity. We have an amazing opportunity because we know ahead of time that President Trump on the first day of office is going to issue executive orders to start the mass deportation of a lot of illegal immigrants, especially those that are committing crimes, especially those are the ones that came over the border in the last 4 years, and start to finally fix this problem. And then our response is what? We'll wait, we'll get around to it. We're going to let other states take the lead? No. Florida does not take a backseat to any state when it comes to fixing the illegal immigration problem. We are going to lead on this. So I want to thank this governor for doing what he said he was going to do in terms of fixing this problem. And this didn't happen in a vacuum. Did you think that Governor Ron DeSantis just woke up one day and said, hey, I'm going to hold a press conference. I'm going to talk about illegal immigration. I'm going to call a special session without consulting President Trump? Obviously not. I know firsthand because I talked to this governor that he talks to the president a lot. And this is in coordination with the president. We cannot wait. We need to go on day one, ready on day one, so these guys can do their jobs. You know, the Biden administration for years were just literally tearing the walls down and fostering more and more illegal immigration. Now we're debating whether we want to do this now or wait. I think that's a question that it shouldn't even have to be asked and answered. We know this stuff has to happen now. So we should not hesitate. We should not equivocate. We should do everything we can, work hand in hand with the Trump administration through our great governor, Ron DeSantis, and get this done. We Personally, I think this, and I have a sneaking suspicion, and most of you think this, and the people who are listening to this right now, we need to stand with Governor Ron DeSantis on this. We need to stand with President Trump, and we need to stand against illegal immigration. Guys, thank you for everything that you do.
Good morning, everybody. I had some notes that I was going to speak from, but Sheriff Judd asked me could he see him earlier, and he took all my speaking points. So first of all, I want to thank Sheriff Judd and his team for hosting us here. Sheriff Judd is my great friend and certainly a leader for Florida sheriffs. I want to thank our governor, not only for today and for taking this stance, but for his unwavering stance in fighting crime and fighting illegal immigration across the country, sending great Florida resources to help fight the battle at the wall, at the border where it should be fought, instead of fighting it in our own backyards where we'd have to fight it if we didn't fight it out there. So certainly want to thank him and his team, our Attorney General as well. And then I want to thank President Trump for going through a living hell to become America's president. I will tell you that I'm excited about the next 4 years. The last 4 years, what we have seen is an administration that has opened the floodgates of illegals coming into our country. Nowhere else has America ever turned a blind eye to crime. Nowhere. But for some reason, illegal immigration, we not only turn a blind eye to it, we endorse it and fund it so that people can come into our country illegally. And to me, there's no greater slap in the face to those that came to our country the right way than to allow people to come to our country illegally. So this is the right time. We have gone through 4 years of illegals impacting our country. And I'm often asked, well, Florida's not a border state. I just checked again today, we're not. But here's what I can tell you. Every time that someone asks me that question, I respond with this. Illegal immigration doesn't stop at the border. It filters into every community in this country. It filters into every community. It filters into every increase. Our health and medical resources are impacted, our insurance. All across the board, we see crime rising up because of illegals that are coming into our country. Fentanyl coming across the border. The last 4 years, we have seen more illegals cross our border than any time in the history of this country. And so what we're doing, what Governor DeSantis is doing with his leadership, is readying the force, giving us the tools, the resources we need to work with our local, state, and federal partners to get this job done. For the last 4 years, we've had an inability because of the federal rules and federal laws for us to get involved, for us to be involved and do things that we know we can do to fix this problem. And let it be known, it's not the boots on the ground with Customs and Border Patrol and ICE. They want to do their jobs. They want to be unhandcuffed so they can go out and get the job done. But the Biden administration and those in Washington have handcuffed them. And in doing so, they have victimized America. I've spoken with angel families that have lost loved ones, innocent lives that were taken, innocent American lives that were taken by people that were here in our country illegally. I've spoken with those families and I've seen the gut-wrenching hurt in their face. I've spoken with victims of crime even today that were impacted by illegals. Not long ago, I watched one of my own deputies be hit head on at high speed by a person that was drunk driving. Shouldn't even have been behind the wheel drunk, but he shouldn't even have been in our country because he was here illegally. Almost killed one of our deputies. Folks, it stops. 5 days from now, the governor spoke about Sheriff Judd and I being blessed to be called America's sheriffs. In fairness, he's called America's older sheriff, and I'm
Best sheriff, older best sheriff.
No, I'm the better looking sheriff. So, but the reality is, in 5 days, America's real sheriff will take over. Florida's sheriff is standing right here behind me. And he has been pushing the needle, setting the pace for us to protect you. And so this is about getting ready for January 20th, that executive order to come in, for us to all work together as partners with one common goal: protecting the citizens of America, protecting the citizens of the state of Florida, and giving us the tools we need to protect our country. So I'm blessed to stand here, and Governor DeSantis, thank you. Sheriff Judd said it very well. We have a great team in Tallahassee. Our legislators in the Senate and House are awesome. They have helped put Florida in what we often refer to as the free state of Florida. What we're doing now is all of us working together to push the needle and let Florida be the leader in protecting America. That's what we're doing. Thank you, Governor.
All right. Okay, Shubin, come on. You ready? Go ahead. Of course.
All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me here. So I'm here to share my story as a victim, like he said. Yeah, let's go back to last year around March 19. I have to tell you first, I own a restaurant in Lakeland, a very small business, just me and my husband, very small. We don't have chain, we don't have franchise, anything. Mom and pop restaurant. We work hard, work so hard. But before I had this, the first time that I came to America, I came here with a student visa. I pay everything for visa fee, entry fee, everything. I do everything legally. So that's why we here today, we talk about an immigrant. I'm an immigrant too, but I'm different. I love this country. So that's why I want to do the right thing. So, okay, go back to the story. After I own a business, I have a restaurant. We work so hard. We work every day. We used to open like 7 days a week. It's hard to get the manpower. So we put everything, me and my husband. But I can imagine this thing happened to me a year ago. So it's cost me a lot of time and money to go through the legal process for the immigrant. But I want to do it because it was the right thing to do that I told you. When I met my husband, we worked together so hard to get legally becoming a full-time permanent U.S. citizen. I'm a U.S. citizen, maybe Asian American, like he said. But once in 2015, we made a bold new leap of the becoming of the business owner and open our own restaurant. We want to realize our own version of the American dream, and Florida became the place where that could be happen. Okay, like I told you last year, one of my house behind me, they have construction. So a lot of construction people behind my house. So I didn't realize that bad thing gonna happen because I think I have a best neighborhood in Lakeland. We have a great community, we have a good neighbor, but only one house, the building was building behind my house. At that time, I don't have a security system yet. I have only one Ring camera in front of my door. So I'm gonna see the construction people every day. They seem nice. They just look at me, wave to me. You know, I didn't realize things gonna happen. And then I don't think much of the new random people behind my house because I figured they just come here to do their job. Nothing gonna happen. But eventually, I noticed that they were keeping the eye on me, my husband, and they know I have a restaurant. And also they began to recognize the pattern of my routine when we were open, close, break time, when they come in. They know me as a wife, they know my husband as the guy as husband, and they know the time when I'm there, when I'm not there. And we decided to close on Wednesday because we short of the staff, so I can do 7 days a week. So we close on Wednesday. So most of the Tuesday night, I'm gonna stay longer than usual because I have to have a deep clean, everything cleaning. I didn't know that they keep watching me. So they decide to make an action on Tuesday night because they know I'm gonna stay longer than usual. So on that Tuesday last year, March 19, I still remember. It's repeat me again. I can talk right now, but go back to 4 or 5 months ago, I couldn't talk to anyone. I was so depressed. Okay, go back to that day. I go home as usual. In front of my house was normal. The door and the ring didn't say anything. But once I opened the door, I come in, I saw my cat ran, come surprise me. Normally they never greet me, but they come to me like something happened, and they lead me to the dinner table. I use dinner table as a work table, and I saw all the mess, all the receipt, because I have restaurant, I have a lot of receipt at home. All the receipt drop on the floor, and then I realized something not good happened. And then I realized my sliding door in the back was broken, like pieces. And now I know thing happened. I ran to my closet, and I saw everything like mess. I they flip my mattress, they mess up everything. I have a 2-story house. They go every single room, every single piece of my drawer. They took everything that I saved up for 20 years. The most memory thing that I get from my mom before she passed away last year, she gave a 99.9 purity gold from Thailand. It's beautiful. They took it from my memory. They took my cat. They took everything. They took my rings. They took my watch. They took jewelry, designer purse, everything. I can say everything because from what I heard from him, I heard that they spent almost 45 minutes at my house at that time. It was 7 o'clock or something, but still daylight saving, but still have a light, but they make an action. I heard that they have like 4 people that picture that show. One of them still keep an eye on me at the restaurant to make sure I'm still there. My husband's still there. The other one look out in front of the house, and the other 2 go to the house and took everything. They go to the second floor. They search all the room, all the receipt box that I have. They drop all the box because they thought maybe I have something in the box, but no. And then they go downstairs again and they search again, I believe. Even something that I hide from the small drawer, they took it. They have plenty of time. And then yeah, when I realized everything was, I got robbed. So I decided to call the police, you know, around 10 p.m. because I believe they make an action around 7 or 8, but when I got home, it's around 10 p.m. So I called the police. Only 5-7 minutes, the sheriff show up, and then yeah, it was sad. You know, you save up everything, and you think like your home is a safe zone, right? But it's not anymore. And I thought it's a construction people, but when we find out, it's a criminal immigrant. I'm an immigrant too, but I come here legally. I pay everything. I come here for student. I pay everything. I need education. I pay everything. I become U.S. citizen. I pay everything. I do the right thing. What do you want me to do? I do it. But why these people do this to me? It's not fair. That's why I want to make sure, like January 20, right? You said, yeah. I want to make sure you guys completely seal the border. If they want to come, yeah, you pay legally. But if illegal and you come to our country and do this, and now I know from my friend, I'm telling you, 2 weeks later, after it happened to me, it's happened to my friend house who owned a restaurant in Winter Park. Just 2 weeks. But her house have a security camera, everything, but they keep an eye on her niece. Only 2 minutes. Her niece didn't put the code. They get in and took everything. And another 4 weeks after that, it's happened to another Thai restaurant in Winter Park. They have a system on everything, but when they break in the system alarm, they took only 5 minutes before the police show up. And the owner don't even know like what happened to the house. So what happened? In my opinion, they focus on the Asian American because they know our routine. We work so hard. We keep our routine, go out to work and then do hard work and then go back home, and we save a lot. That's why maybe they target us. They target the other two, but maybe on Asian American Why us? Because we work hard and we have no problem. Not fair, from what I think. But last but not least, okay, I just want to say thank you, especially this guy. He's my customer too. He been to my restaurant. Yeah, he loved my food. I'm bad. And the other officer, yeah, they have been to my restaurant and they love them. I'm just a small business. I'm glad that they support me. If without you guys support a small restaurant, we can do it. We can make it. I opened for 9 years. So I'm like, I can't believe I make it. Just me and my husband. Yeah. We still charge staff, but we do our best, put everything to the restaurant. I just want to say thank you to the hard work of the Attorney General Office, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, and detective from our local sheriff office. These criminals were caught and have been punished to the fullest extent of the law. I also want to thank to the Governor DeSantis, thank you, sir, for making Florida such a strong law and order state, and for making sure our law enforcement officers have the resources and support they need to stop crime like the one we face and put the criminals who are the danger to the community behind bars. I am hopeful that the new Trump administration will restore laws and order at our southern border and around state to do what needs to be done to stop the illegal immigration. Thank you so much, guys.
All right, great job. Good job. Good job. Well, we appreciate that. That was unfortunate story, but I appreciate your willingness to tell it, and we want to make sure that doesn't happen. These theft rings, you have illegal alien theft rings, and the thing is it shouldn't take them to actually victimize somebody. If you know there's a gang, you should just take them off the streets and send them back to their home country. We've got to be proactive on this. I know the new administration wants to be, but we need cooperation at the municipal, county, and say, look, the state, I'm going to tell people to cooperate, right? But most of this is actually local in nature in terms of the numbers, right? The state, our law enforcement's relatively a small percentage. So we all need to work together. I know these look, once we get the authorities in place and we're locked and loaded, in a couple of weeks, these guys are going to get the job done. I mean, you're going to see really positive changes. And the thing is yes, there's illegal alien crime. There's also the larger issue of just, we have a lot of people coming to Florida, right? I mean, traffic accidents, car insurance goes up, healthcare costs, all this stuff. And I think we should just focus on our citizens for a change, and let's make the state work for the people that have the right to be here. You also have a situation of, you're not a country if you don't have a border. You're not a country if the rule of law doesn't matter. And the last I checked, you're supposed to follow the law. It's not just, well, you follow the law and we'll hold you accountable if you commit some capital offense. But short of that, you're going to know we're going to follow the law and enforce it. So these are really, really significant times. We don't have time to dilly-dally. We have to have a sense of urgency on this, and we got to come out of the gate very, very strong. And so I think that this is going to be really, really impactful. And again, this is not just some random issue that we're pulling out of a hat. This is the central issue of the last 4 years with Republican elected officials, for sure. Look, a lot of the Democrats are still for open borders. We get it. They've opposed us on everything that we've done, banning sanctuary cities, E-Verify, all this stuff. That's just their position. Maybe these more recent election results will have them reevaluate a little bit. I doubt it. But the Republicans, I mean, this has been their issue. They put it in their campaign literature. They talk about how strong they're going to be on this issue. Well, now's the time to put up, and don't be somebody that is going to say one thing to get elected and then not be willing to go in there and do what you said you're going to do. We have to deliver the results that the voters expect. And I don't think there's been an issue that's been more persistent in terms of government failure, in terms of the effects that you've had than this immigration issue. So let's end this crisis once and for all. President Trump can't do it all by himself. We have to be there working hand in hand to get the job done. So thanks everybody for coming. Take a few questions. Thank you.
And Governor, you mentioned how some lawmakers are campaigning on certain issues and then failing to take action. Is that a direct response response to their letter yesterday that they sent?
I was honestly really surprised at the letter. Now, look, I assume they would want to call a special session because of how salient this issue is, because this is such a unique opportunity. And I typically have wanted the legislature to lead on that. And if they're willing to do it, we kind of say, okay, you guys do it. It's your baby. You can go ahead and take the credit for it. They didn't want to do it. And so I was in a situation where, we really weren't getting cooperation. I'm like, okay, our voters sent us here to deliver results. Our voters didn't send us here to say that after 4 years of Biden policies, that we just have a lot of time to burn and we don't have to worry about getting it. No, we got to get in the saddle and do it. So I felt I had an obligation as governor to put this issue front and center to make sure that our elected officials take a stand one way or another. Look, you're going to go in. I mean, if Republicans don't want to support this and they want to vote that down, then their constituents obviously will hold them accountable. I don't think there's going to be a lot of takers for going against. Now, I was really surprised at the letter because you're basically saying after 4 years of Biden's really, really destructive immigration and border policies, that it's somehow premature for us to act with a new president coming in. Are you kidding me? This is the time to act. We don't have time to wait, and it's never premature to do the right thing. It's never wrong to stand up and do what's right. We're going to have an inauguration on Monday. And then there'll be a bunch of executive orders that are going to be signed. I mean, I know a lot of the immigration, what's going to be in that. What we've done is to tailor these policies to be able to build off that so that we get the maximum impact here in the state of Florida. And not just to help the Trump administration succeed, which we want, but we want our people to benefit from this. This is not a political thing. This is about actually getting the policies right. In delivering the results that we want to do. So it's certainly not premature. I don't know why you would want to wait months to be able to take action on an issue that is top drawer with voters. Voters sent us here for a reason. And there are different things people run on. I could tell you this is one of the core things I ran on 2 years ago. It's been the core thing that President Trump's run on. And guys like Blaze and Jay Collins have been running on this as well. And most of the people in the legislature. So I don't want to waste time. I think we got to get this done. I think we got to lead. And here's the thing. Even if you do all this great policy on the front end, it's not like you just snap your fingers and everything falls into place. There'll be funding. There's going to be things. We need to get going. If you drag your feet for many months, maybe you don't even get funding till July, then how are we making the use of the time? And President Trump's already served a term. He's got 4 years. We don't know what's going to happen after that. This may be our one window in the next decade, perhaps. Who knows? It's a very unpredictable world out there. We've got to capitalize on every day. We can't let time waste. We got to make the most of this opportunity for the people of Florida. And so no, it's not premature to stand strong against illegal immigration. If anything, it's overdue.
And Governor, I see that you also gave a list of proposals to battle illegal immigration, but for the people in like Tampa Bay who live in these condos and they're waiting on proposals to battle the condo affordability crisis and everything that's happening with that, will you also provide proposals?
So the condos is a huge thing. And so I think you remember, because I was in your guys' area, we did some roundtables around the state. We've solicited a lot of inputs from owners about what they're facing. And my view is the issues that they're facing is as a result of legislation that the legislature passed. And it was well intended. They weren't trying to do anything bad. And obviously it was in response to a very horrific event, the Surfside Tower collapse, which was a traumatic thing for this state. I mean, I was there every day for 2 weeks. It was grueling. It was a really, really tough thing. One of the worst days the state's had. But however well-intentioned, that's created problems for people. So are we just going to sit by and let people be forced out of their units and act like that we shouldn't do anything? I mean, I just think we have a responsibility to act. So we've solicited a lot of ideas. We've shared ideas with the legislature. I know the Florida Senate has solicited ideas. My sense is that the House is not really in a position where they think anything needs to be done. But yes, we've already been sharing that with the legislature. I don't think that because I was asked last year, why don't you just call a special session on condos now? It's like, well, we don't have agreement. And I don't think we still have agreement, but at some point we just have to take a stand, right, and do something. So I've heard a lot from Floridians about it. I know the members of the legislature have heard a lot, and I know there's a lot of members that want to see action on that. So let's just be thoughtful about it. We are willing to listen to anything that the legislature wants to do, and obviously if they produce a product, I'll take a look at that and have to apply my signature as appropriate. But the condos is important, and so is the hurricane relief, by the way. If you're going to do now, maybe the legislature take the position that the farmers that really took heavy losses, that they should get nothing. If that's the position, then they should just say that. But if you're going to do that, why would you wait till July 1st? Why wouldn't you just do it now? You look at all the people along the coast, on the west coast of Florida, who are rebuilding their homes. Some of those people had been approved for the My Safe Florida Home program, but the program ran out of money because it's a very popular program. You make improvements to harden your residents, people get reduction in their insurance rates. It's an indirect way for us to try to provide relief, because obviously we can't control, the private rates. So you did that. And a lot of people have benefited, but there's a lot of people that are waiting. So in those hurricane areas, people that are rebuilding anyways, if they're approved, deliver the money now so they can rebuild their homes. Why wait till July 1st? So I think that that's timely. And I don't think that's something that makes sense to wait. And then we all lived through this amendment fiasco last year. And every single Republican that I've talked to has agreed that the way these petitions have been done has been a total farce. We know there were massive amounts of fraud in the Amendment 4 petitions. We haven't really looked at Amendment 3, but certainly Amendment 4. It's a cottage industry where people are getting paid to generate petitions. And so they can sign names and then get more money, and it's got to stop. And this is not just some random thing. This is the Constitution of the state of Florida. If you just somehow manufacture these petitions, you craft the language in a way that is inoffensive, maybe you get 60%, and voila, you are binding future generations of Floridians with a constitutional amendment. And so we're starting off this cycle. There's going to become a point where people are going to start trying to do petitions, perhaps. And I think the rules should be made clear now that there needs to be verification on the petitions. We should treat it just like an absentee ballot. You show ID to get the petition. You got to show ID when you send it in, or bring it to the election office, or have it notarized. Not just have somebody who's getting paid just dump 1,000 petitions, and then what? The supervisor is supposed to figure out if those are valid or not. They haven't been able to do that, I think, in an adequate way. So we need to overhaul that. And I do think that that's time sensitive as well. So that's a larger issue about kind of the structure of government that I think is really important, because the stakes are high when you're talking about amending the state constitution. On the others, they're all clearly policy issues that are very, very time sensitive. I mean, do we want to have more of these theft rings running wild for an extra 3 or 4 months? Why would we want to do that? Who would think that's acceptable? And so they're saying, yeah, we want to do it. We just don't want to do it now. We want to wait. I would suggest to you that the issue, if that's what they're saying, is probably not about timing. It's about substance and whether they actually would support some of this stuff. You get into a regular session, things are flying around, things fall out. I mean, just think about the fact that we've been asking for 5 years now to not have in-state tuition for illegal alien. And yet it falls out of the bills, right? Why does it fall out of the bills? So let's get it done. So this is all now front and center. So I think, the whole timing thing is not, first of all, waiting is worse for sure. But this will be really front and center. And I just think it's important. I just think it's important for people to go on record. Are you going to do what you campaigned on, what your voters expect from you, or not? And my view on all this stuff is like, if I tell you I'm going to do it, I do it. I've pledged that we would lead on immigration. We have done that in Florida, but that's with Biden in there. Now we have a total new outlook on January 20th. And so we have a chance to really do some historic things. So I'm really looking forward to the opportunities here. We're going to be working with these guys. And honestly, these guys will end up leading the show. I mean, we'll be coordinating at the state level. We will have an impact. But the day to day, I mean, I tell you, if we get these policies enacted in 2 weeks, these illegals are not going to show up in Polk County. They're not going to show up in Brevard County. It's just not going to happen because they'll see that it ain't going to work for them. And it doesn't work well now because these sheriffs will take action, but they are limited in their authorities. As they've talked about, the Biden administration will release people or they won't pick people up. Well, it's hard if they don't have any additional legal authority. They can't just hold somebody if they don't have authority to do it. So we're going to definitely change that. And I think it's going to be a really, really positive thing. Yes. So first of all, his orders are coming on January 20th. This session was called for January 27th. So the idea that we're preempting is a total non-starter. We know how to read a calendar. We know you don't put the cart before the horse, but we also know what's going to be in these orders because we've been coordinating with this. And so we will be able to digest. I don't think there's going to be anything in there that we're going to be surprised about, but we'll have January 20th and those ensuing days to digest and see. But I can tell you this is tailored to anticipate what we know is coming down the pike. And yes, could you have argued doing this the week before that it's better just wait to actually him get in? Maybe you could have done that. Although, I don't think there will be legal. I mean, there's going to be legal challenges regardless, but the timing of it, if it's before or after or 5 days after or a week after, that's not ultimately going to be what's germane. They're going to shop this to liberal judges, just like they did in Trump's first term, just like they do with every policies we do. Some liberal judge will likely bite. We appeal. We usually win on appeal, and then that's that. So that's inevitable. Anytime you're leading on issues, the reality is that the left will bring lawsuits, and we've seen it. I mean, we won the Disney lawsuit. We just won the Andrew Warren removal lawsuit. We won Monique Worrell lawsuit. She tried to go to the Florida Supreme Court. We won the lawsuit on the education. So we've won all these, or almost all of them. But that is inevitable. And I can tell you, the left is gearing up for the Trump agenda. They're going to file lawsuits in Hawaii and find some liberal judge to try to get the liberal judge to stop the policy nationwide, just like they did in the first term. So you're going to see them try to use the courts to stop the agenda. And I think the Supreme Court's in a better spot now than it was 4 years ago or 8 years ago. So I don't think they're going to be as successful, but they will absolutely do that. No matter what is done, you will absolutely see legal challenges. But some of this stuff, I mean, there's nothing in the Constitution that requires you to provide in-state tuition to illegal aliens. I mean, let's get real here. We can roll that back. There's nothing in the Constitution that says that you shouldn't have to pledge that you're a U.S. citizen before registering to vote, which of course qualifies with Florida law. There's nothing in the Constitution that would prohibit us from going after these illegal alien gangs before they victimize people. So that they can be repatriated to their home country. And obviously, not only is there nothing in the Constitution or law that would prohibit cooperation with state and local law enforcement and the feds, they have a whole program that's designed to do that. And yes, any of the regulatory overreach that Biden's done, Trump administration is going to pare that back. They understand that we got to focus on the task at hand. So I'm optimistic you're going to see a lot of stuff happen. And I also think you will see more states get into the fight. And this is not unusual. Florida usually is the first one out of the gate on things. And once people see that it can be done, then we seem to get more. So I think you're going to see a lot of that. And it's really going to be, a sea change potentially within the next couple of weeks. You're going to see such a sea change from where we were 4 years ago when Biden was signing executive orders to open the borders. And then states like us were scurrying to try to protect our citizens. We are not going to permit our streets, our parks, and our public places to become homeless camps. We are not Los Angeles. We are not San Francisco. We are not New York City. So we are going to make sure that we're putting our people first. We did craft legislation. I do think there's been a Supreme Court ruling since then that probably has cleared the way for us to be a little stronger on how that was done. And that the original bill was written based on some existing precedent, even though we didn't agree with it. I think the legislature was like, well, we want something that's going to stick. So there may be even more that they could do to tighten that up. But you cannot have homeless impinging on the rights and freedoms of people throughout the state of Florida. There's shelters, there's other things, but at a minimum, it has to be kept out of overrunning the streets and the parks and the businesses. We've seen when states allow that to happen, it really snowballs. It creates a really bad situation. And I remember, because not that it was ever great, but like in LA, when it really started getting bad 4 or 5 years ago, I remember people say like there'd be homeless everywhere. And sure enough, you're like on Sunset Boulevard.
Hey, this is Jerry with On Point Wildlife Removal. If you think you might have critters in your attic like squirrels, bats, rats, or raccoons, give us a call today. We'll come out, we'll take a look, we'll give you a free quote to get them out, to seal up your home, and clean up whatever mess they left behind. We're locally owned and operated, and we're fully licensed and insured.